What is up, you guys? Welcome back to my channel if you are a subscriber, and if you are new, what are you waiting for? Join the Divine crew, okay? I like to first start out by giving you guys a little background history of my experience on the ramp, and then I'll get into some facts about the ramp. So back in March, I started as a ramp supervisor. I was loading the top side of the plane, and if you're not familiar with what top side means, I'll get into that a little later in the video. And I had a 6-hour crew. I did work for UPS, as you can see by the title, and I can say that I really did learn a lot from this experience from a supervisor standpoint, as well as what I like to call union employees. And union employees is basically non-management workers at UPS. So, what's it like working on the ramp? I'm gonna first talk about a couple of different workers or a couple of different job roles that you will see on the ramp, or that is on the ramp. I'll start out with what I was, which was considered a crew member. Now, since I was a crew member, that means that it was me and then my crew. Me and my crew, and I could say I had a total of about 7 or 8 people on my crew. I would go around the ramp with my crew members, and we would either load or unload the planes. And if you're curious on how we got our assignments, all of these supervisors had walkie-talkies where they basically told us where the plane was and the position it was on the ramp. Other than the crew members, we have something called tug drivers. And tug drivers are basically the people who drive around in these mini little cars and pull the cans either onto or off of the planes. I personally believe hands down that they have the easiest job on the ramp, and that's just because, you know, they're sitting in their tugs all day. They're not really having to do a lot, but they are a very important part of a ramp job, because without them, how else would we be able to transport these cans? Then you have the marshalers, or marshaling people. These are the people who are out there guiding the planes in, putting them into the positions where they need to go. They are another important job role on the ramp, because without these people, planes would just be literally everywhere. There would be nowhere for these planes to go, and they'll all just be looking confused. So you have marshalers, and their job is to literally just park the planes and put the crew stairs on the planes, as well as any other equipment needed for a plane, such as chocks or GPU, which is basically things to hold the tires in place, as well as giving the plane power once the pilot leaves. You also have shifters. Now, shifters are people who stay out on the wing ramps, and basically as soon as a plane is unloaded or a plane needs to be loaded, these shifters are people who will be pushing these cans into the dock or pushing it off the dock. It's a pretty simple job, but it can be hard at times, depending on the weight of the cans. And lastly, we have de-ice. Now, I'm not certainly familiar with what chemicals that they use to spray on the planes, but I do know that there are de-ice members who use their machines or whatever, and they basically are spraying this coat of whatever chemicals that they need on the plane. I guess it helps it when it's flying in the air. Again, I'm not really familiar with it right now, but I will be trained on it in a couple of months or so. If you have any questions on that, please do ask. So those are a few different types of ramp job roles that are on the ramp. There may possibly be more job roles that I am personally not familiar with, or that I am just not going to cover in this video. The next thing I like to talk about is the different type of ramps there are. Now, on UPS, we have something called the remote ramp. And then we also have something called the wing ramps. I came from the remote ramp where me and my crew had our own personal van, we had our walkie-talkie, and we would get assignments on where to travel throughout the whole entire ramp to unload or load a specific plane. Now, as far as the wing ramps, these ramps have designated docks, and in each dock there is a plane that pulls in. So once the plane is pulled in, there's already equipment stationed there. All the pilot and marshalers have to do is open up the door, and then the planes can automatically be unloaded from the plane onto the dock into the building. Or you could use some of those tug drivers to take those cans wherever they need to go. The next thing I like to talk about is the different shifts that they offer. Now, I know here at UPS we have a couple of different shifts for a couple of different people. Like I said, I had a 6-hour crew, meaning that, to be exact, an early 6-hour crew. And what that basically means is that they come in earlier than most people and they are guaranteed those 6 hours. We also have full-time crew members who come in for a full-time shift, maybe around 10. I do work third shift, I forgot to mention that, but they come in around 10 p.m. and then they'll leave around 4:35-ish. You can do the math. I don't know if that was right or wrong, but just that is typically the hours for a full-time employee. We also have a late 6-hour crew, as well as an early 3-hour crew and a late 3-hour crew. And all this really means is that you are guaranteed those specific hours throughout each single night. The next thing I like to talk about is that you will have to learn how to use equipment for the planes. So there's something called a K-loader. Now, a K-loader is what pulls up to the biggest part of the plane, which is considered topside, or it can pull up to the second to smallest side of the plane, which is the P sections. Now, with this K-loader, you'll have to learn to guide it up to the plane, but just close enough so the cans can be unloaded, but not so it can touch. If it touches, you can ultimately get fired. So you will be trained on it, so it's not like a, oh my gosh, freak out type of ordeal. But basically all this K-loader does is either loads up those cans or unloads those cans from each of those planes. Then we have something called a belt loader. Now, a belt loader is kind of similar to maybe a car. It functions kind of like a car. The only difference is it has like an automated conveyor belt on it. This is specifically used to open up the P section doors, as well load or unload the belly. The belly is the smallest compartment of the plane, and usually single packages goes in there. Next thing I like to talk about is pushing cans. Now, it sounds really basic. When I was a topside supervisor, there were cans that were at least 5,000 pounds. Now, you typically won't see these weight of cans if you are loading the P's or the bellies, but if you are on top side, there could possibly be a can or a pallet, which comes from freight, that weighs that much. So you just have to keep in mind that this job is based around pushing cans and pushing pallets onto the plane or off the plane. There's only one plane that you don't really have to use your hands for, say, to touch the cans, because it's automated, and I'll get into that a little bit later. But like I've mentioned, you will have to get used to pushing and pulling cans. The next thing I like to talk about is adjusting to the weather. Since you are working outside, you have to literally look at the weather every single day before you go into work. If you don't, you could possibly be standing outside on the K-loader in the rain with no jacket on, no nothing. And it's not gonna be fun. So you do have to adjust to the weather. You have to keep in mind that when it's snowing, when it's raining, when it's hailing, when it's hot, you will be outside working in those conditions. Granted, you will have the van where you can have AC, but you won't be able to stay in the van all throughout the night. So if you are planning on working on the ramp, just know that you will have to adjust to changing conditions. The next thing I like to talk about, which is probably obvious, but I'm gonna just mention it anyway, you have to wear vests. Now this was my supervisor vest. It had a lot of pockets. I mean, I've cleaned it so it's not as dirty as before. And then we have the regular union vest. Now these vests just look almost the same except no pockets, and it's just pretty basic. Me personally, I didn't really like wearing my vest. I'm the type of girl who likes to have my outfits matching and coordinating, and just throwing on this yellow traffic cone vest did not do it for me. But it was still good. It was still okay. So you do have to wear your vest at all times. Outside, obviously if you're in the van, you can take it off, but it's kind of pointless because you're gonna have to put it right back on. If it's cold outside and you want to wear a jacket, you must make sure that this vest is on the outermost layer of your clothing. And the last thing I would like to talk about is the different planes you will see. Now here at my UPS, there are about 6 different planes that they have. So we're going to start out with the 100 series, and the 100 series are the Airbuses. Then we have the 200 series, and the 200 series are the MD-11s. I kind of have like a picture of an MD-11 on my shirt. And then we have the 300 series, which is considered the 7.6s, and the 400 series, which is considered the 7.5, which is the smallest planes we have on the ramp, not including the smaller ones that I'm not going to mention because I didn't really work with those. After the 400 series, we have the 500 and 600 series. The 500 series is a 7.4-4 and then the 7.4-8. These are our largest planes on the ramp. The only difference between the -4 and the -8 is that the -8 has more positions that cans can be loaded on. I am pretty knowledgeable on the ramp. I was only there for a short amount of time, but I did learn a lot from being there. If you have any more questions regarding the ramp, just leave them down below or send me an email and I will for sure get back to you. If you made it to the end of this video, you are a real one. Please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. But without further ado, I'll see you in my next video.